Well, Casey, we're here wearing our train conductor hats, and my child's train set is on the table in front of us, which can only mean one thing.
We're going to train a large language model.
Nope, that's not what that means.
Oh, what does it mean?
It's time to play a game of the Hot Mess Express.
Pause for theme song. That's right. Oh.
There we go.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
That's the wrong button.
Hot mess.
That does feel like, doesn't that feel like that all happened 40 years ago?
Here, do you want to step back in time 40 years?
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Hot Mess Express, Kevin, is our segment where we run through some of the messiest recent tech stories and deploy our official hot mess thermometer to tell you just how messy we think things have gotten. And Kevin, you better sit down for this one, because it's been a messy week.
Sure has.
So why don't we go ahead, fire up the Hot Mess Express, and see what is the first story coming down the tracks.
I hear a faint chugga in my headphones. Oh, it's pulling into the station.
Yeah.
Casey, what's the first cargo that our Hot Mess Express is carrying?
All right, Kevin, this first story comes to us from the New York Times, and it says that Fable, a book app, has made changes after some offensive AI messages.
Now, Casey, have you ever heard of Fable, the book app?
Well, not until this story, Kevin, but I am told that it is an app for sort of keeping track of what you're reading, not unlike a Goodreads, but also for discussing what you're reading. And apparently this app also offers some AI chat.
Yeah, so you can have AI sort of summarize the things that you're reading in a personalized way. And this story said that in addition to spitting out bigoted and racist language, the AI inside Fable's book app had told one reader who had just finished 3 books by Black authors, quote, "Your journey dives deep into the heart of Black narratives and transformative tales, leaving mainstream stories gasping for air. Don't forget to surface for the occasional white author, okay?" And another personalized AI summary that Fable produced told another reader that their book choices were, quote, "making me wonder if you're ever in the mood for a straight cis white man's perspective."
And if you are interested in a straight cis white man's perspective, follow Kevin Roose on X.com. Now, Kevin, why do we think this happened?
I don't know, Casey. This is a head scratcher for me. I mean, we know that these apps can spit out biased things. That is just sort of like part of how they are trained and part of what we know about them. I don't know what model Fable was using under the hood here, but yeah, this seems not great.
Well, it seems like we've learned a lesson that we've learned more than once before, which is that large language models are trained on the internet, which contains near infinite racism, and for that reason, it will actually produce racism when you ask it questions.
Yeah.
So there are mitigations that you can take against that, but it appears that in this case, they were not successful. Fable's head of community, Kim Marsh-Alley, has said that all features using AI are being removed from the app, and a new app version is being submitted to the App Store. So you always hate it when the first time you hear about an app is that they added AI and it made it super racist and they have to redo the app.
Now, Casey, one more question before we move on. Do you think this poses any sort of competitive threat to Grok, which until this story was the leading racist AI app on the market?
I do think so, and I have to admit that all the folks over at Grok are breathing a sigh of relief now that they have once again claimed the mantle.
All right, Casey, how hot is this mess?
Well, Kevin, in my opinion, if your AI is so bad that you have to remove it from the app completely, that's a hot mess.
Yeah, I rate this one a hot mess as well.
All right,
next stop.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Uh-oh, I shuffled them up. Next stop on the Hot Mess Express. Amazon pauses drone deliveries after aircraft crashed in rain. Casey, this story comes to us from Bloomberg, which had a different line of reporting than we did just a few weeks ago on the show about Amazon's drone program, Prime Air. Casey, what happened to Amazon Prime Air?
Well, if you heard the episode of Hard Fork where we talked about it, Amazon Prime Air delivered us some Brazilian bum bum cream, and it did so without incident. However, Bloomberg reports that Amazon has had to now pause all of their commercial drone deliveries after 2 of its latest models crashed in rainy weather at a testing facility. And so the company says it is immediately suspending drone deliveries in Texas and Arizona and will now fix the aircraft software. Kevin, how did you react to this?
Well, I think it's good that they're suspending drone deliveries before they fix the software, because these things are quite heavy, Casey. I would not want one of them to fall on my head.
I wouldn't either. And I have to tell you, this story gave me the worst kind of flashbacks, because in 2016, I wrote about Facebook's drone Aquila and its first, what the company told me, had been its first successful test flight in its mission to deliver internet around the world via drone. What the company did not tell me when I was interviewing its executives, including Mark Zuckerberg, was that the plane had crashed after that first flight. And so I was...
A small detail. I'm sure it was an innocent omission from their briefing.
Yes, I'm sure. Well, it was Bloomberg, again, who reported, a couple months after I wrote this story, that the Facebook drone had crashed. I was, of course, hugely embarrassed and, wrote a bunch of stories about this. But anyways, it really should have occurred to me when we were out there watching the Amazon drone that this thing was also probably secretly crashing and we just hadn't found out about it yet. And indeed, we now learned it is. So here's my vow to you, Kevin, as my friend and my co-host. If we ever see a company fly anything again, we have to ask them. Now, did this thing actually crash?
Yeah.
I'm tired of being burned.
Now, Casey, we should say, according to Bloomberg, these drones reportedly crashed in December. We visited Arizona to see them in very early December. So most likely, this all happened after we saw them. But I think it's a good idea to keep in mind that as we're talking about these new and experimental technologies, that many of them are still having the kinks worked out.
All right, Kevin. So let's get out the thermometer. How hot of a mess is this?
I would say this is a moderate mess. Look,
Yeah.
these are still testing programs. No one was hurt during these tests. I am glad that Bloomberg reported on this. I'm glad that they've suspended the deliveries. These things could be quite dangerous flying through the air. I do think it's one of a string of reported incidents with these drones. So I think they've got some quality control work ahead of them. And I hope they do well on it, because I want these things to exist in the world and be safe for people around them.
All right. I will agree with you and say that this is a warm mess, and hopefully we can get it straightened out over there.
All right. It's time to pull up to the next station.
You think you just
Why
fell
do
out
I
of a
keep
coconut
pressing that
tree?
button? Okay, Kevin. Wow, this is some tough news. Fitbit has agreed to pay $12 million for not quickly reporting burn risk with watches. Kevin, did you hear about this?
I did. This was the Fitbit devices were like literally burning people.
Yes, from 2018 to March of 2022, Fitbit received at least 174 reports globally of the lithium-ion battery in the Fitbit Ionic watch overheating, leading to 118 reported injuries, including 2 cases of third-degree burns and 4 of second-degree burns. That comes from the New York Times' Adil Hassan. Kevin, I thought these things were just supposed to burn calories.
Well, it's like I always say, exercising is very dangerous and you should never do it. And this justifies my decision not to wear a Fitbit, because I could have gotten a burn.
To me, the biggest surprise of this story was that people were wearing Fitbits from March 2018 to 2022. I thought every Fitbit had been purchased by like 2011 and then put in a drawer, never to be heard again. So what is going on with these sort of, late stage Fitbit buyers? I'd love to find out. But of course, we feel terrible for everyone who was burned by a Fitbit. And it's not going to be the last time technology burns you. I mean, realistically.
That's true. That's true.
Now, what kind of mess is this?
I would say this is a hot mess. This is an officially hot, literally hot. They're hot.
Here's my sort of rubric. If technology physically burns you, it is a hot mess. If you have physical burns on your body, what other kind of mess could it be?
It's true.
That's a hot mess.
Okay, next stop on the Hot Mess Express. Google says it will change Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America in Maps app after government updates. Casey, have you been following this story?
I have, Kevin. Every morning when I wake up, I scan America's maps and I say, what has been changed? And if so, has it been changed for political reasons? And this was probably one of the biggest examples of that we've seen.
Yeah, so this was an interesting story that came out in the past couple of days. Basically, after Donald Trump came out during his first days in office and said that he was changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America and the name of Denali, the mountain in Alaska, to Mount McKinley, Google had to decide, well, when you go on Google Maps and look for those places, what should it call them? It seems to be saying that it is going to take inspiration from the Trump administration and update the names of these places in the Maps app.
Yeah. And look, I don't think Google really had a choice here. We know that the company has been on Donald Trump's bad side for a while. And if it had simply refused to make these changes, it would have sort of caused a whole new controversy for them. And it is true that the company changes place names when governments change place names, right? Like back when, Google Maps existed when Mount McKinley was called Mount McKinley and President Obama changed it to Denali and Google updated the map. Now it's changed back. They're doing the same thing. But now that we know how compliant Google is, Kevin, I think there's room for Donald Trump to have a lot of fun with the company.
Yeah, what could you do?
Well, you could call it the Gulf of Gemini isn't very good and just see what would happen. Because they would kind of have to just change it. Can you imagine every time you opened up Google Maps and you looked at the Gulf of Mexico/America and it just said the Gulf of Gemini is not very good? I hate to give Donald Trump any ideas, but I don't know. Could be worth looking at.
All right.
So what kind of mess do you think this is, Kevin?
I think this is a mild mess. I think this is a tempest in a teapot. I think that this is the kind of update that companies make all the time, because places change names all the time. Let's just say it.
Well, Kevin, I guess I would say that one is a hot mess, because if we're just going to start renaming everything on the map, that's just going to get extremely confusing for me to follow. I got places to go.
You go to like 3 places.
Yeah, and I use Google Maps to get there. And I need them to be named the same thing that they were yesterday.
I don't think they're going to change the name of Barry's Boot Camp. All right, next stop. Final stop on the Hot Mess Express. Casey, bring us home.
All right. All right, Kevin. And this is some sad news. Another Waymo was vandalized. This is from one-time Hard Fork guest Andrew J. Hawkins at The Verge. He reports that this Waymo was vandalized during an illegal street takeover near the Beverly Center in L.A. Video from Fox 11 shows a crowd of people basically dismantling the driverless car piece by piece and then using the broken pieces to smash the windows. Kevin, what did you make of this?
Well, Casey, as you recall, you predicted that in 2025, Waymo would go mainstream. And I think there's no better proof that that is true than that people are turning on the Waymos and starting to beat them up.
Yeah, look, I don't know that we have heard any interviews from why these people were doing this. I don't know if we should see this as like a reaction against AI in general or of Waymos specifically. But I always find it like weird and sad when people attack Waymos because they truly are safer cars than every other car around you.
Not if you're going to be riding in them and people are just going to start like beating the car. Then they're not safer.
No, but that's only happened a couple of times that we're aware of.
Right.
Yeah.
This story is sad to me. Obviously, people are reacting to Waymos. Maybe they have sort of fears about this technology or think it's going to take jobs, or maybe they're just pissed off and they want to break something. But don't hurt the Waymos people, in part because they will remember. They will remember.
I'm not sure that's true.
They will remember, and they will come for you.
I'm not sure that that's true, but I think we should also note that Waymo only became officially available in LA in November of last year. And so part of this just might be a reaction to the newness of it all and people getting a little carried away, just sort of curious what will happen if we try to, destroy this thing. Will it deploy defensive measures and so on? So
they're going to have to put flamethrowers on them. I'm just calling it right now.
I mean, I really hope that doesn't happen. But what kind of mess do you think this one was?
I think this one is a lukewarm mess that has the potential to escalate. I don't want this to happen. I sincerely hope this does not happen, but I can see as Waymo start, being rolled out across the country, that some people are just going to lose their minds. Some people are going to see this as the physical embodiment of technology invading every corner of our lives, and they're just going to react in strong and occasionally destructive ways. I'm sure that Waymo has gamed this all out. I'm sure that this does not surprise them. I know that they have been asked about what happens, if Waymos start getting vandalized, and they have, presumably have plans to deal with that, including prosecuting the people who are doing this. But I always go out of my way to try to be nice to Waymos. And in fact, some other Waymo news this week. Jane Manchun Wong, the security researcher, reported on X recently that Waymo is introducing, or at least testing, a tipping feature. And so I'm going to start tipping my Waymo just to make up for all the jerks in LA who are vandalizing them.
It looks like the tipping feature, by the way, will to tip a charity, and that Waymo will not keep that money. At least that's what's been reported.
No, I think it's going to the Flamethrower Fund.
Okay.
All right, Casey, that is the Hot Mess Express.
It is, Kevin.
Thank you for taking this journey with me.
Hey, that's the end of this clip. If you liked what you saw, head on over to our page and subscribe, and you can get the full podcast. We do a show like this almost every week on tech and the future. Head on over there now and subscribe.